All right, so let's try this again. Greetings. This is Chef Coach Kwasa of Body Culinary, professional chef, personal trainer, and we're going live today on TikTok to talk about women avoiding exercise. Right? We do have a 30-day transformation challenge going on, and today is day 4. And I, even though I'm a coach, I'm participating in another coach who I really admire. I'm participating. Oh, there she is. I'm participating in her 7-day challenge. So it's Chemistry Blake of Body Chemistry. There she is. Yes, let's see if we can get
Oh,
her on.
all
Hey,
right, hold
I'm
up.
still getting familiar with TikTok. So I just all these people random
Yes.
started coming on. I was like, what is
Okay, there
that?
we go. You want to say she wants to say hi because she helped me get on.
Who's that?
That's Kimani, my daughter.
Hi, Kimani. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you.
Oh, great. She has your smile in her voice.
Oh.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear it. Like your facial expression
Can you
or
see
your
her?
mom's facial expression. No, but I
Oh
can
no!
hear
Oh,
it.
come! Let's see.
Yeah, I can hear your smile in your voice, and so I can hear that quality in her voice when she's. I can hear your smile in her voice.
Oh, thank
Hey, how are
you.
you? What are you rocking in your hair? Let me see your hairstyle.
I did it.
Okay,
She did it
okay,
herself, so she proud.
okay. That's what's up. That's definitely what's up. Yeah. So I was really been reflecting. Actually, I just came from taking a walk in here. So I was stopping myself to take a walk. You know, the whole 10,000 steps, my mind is really resistant to 10,000 steps. I'm like, that's boring. But I was like, let me take advantage of the scenery and just use getting up, not so much 10,000 steps, but get up to go connect with nature, to walk down towards the river and back. So if I think of 10,000 steps, I'm like, I don't want to do that. But I was like, no, let's take a break from sitting down, being sedentary, clogging the lymphatic system. Let's disconnect from these screens and work. And let's just take a mental health break. And so when I rearranged it like that in my mind, I was like, okay, this is not bad. This is not bad. I'm looking at the plants and the leaves. I was like, okay. So reframing is everything. And this morning, it was such a really good movement practice. So simple, yet profound at the same time. So for anyone that's joining now, we have on, this is Body Culinary, Chef Coach Kwasa. We have on with us today, Kemi Blake of Body Chemistry. And I like to say I'm a connoisseur of coaches. She's an aspiring contortionist, although I like to say she's a contortionist and a dancer and a mover and a mother and a natural born woman. And she's really passionate about movement. But in particular, what I really like about chemistry is the tools. She's very attuned to tools, which I think is so on point, using your movement as a tool to ground yourself and your body. And I'm not meaning to sound esoteric when I'm saying ground, to literally become present in your body. There's like an essence, a spirit, something animating this body. Because believe it or not, I would say most of the time, even though we're moving about and working, we're not present. For example, we're not present to how much we're eating, how much we're distending the organs, how fast we're chewing, how much we didn't chew the food that was swallowing. We're not even present to a lot of the decisions we're about to make that might self-sabotage our whole life. So we're actually not present a lot of the time. And she gives really, really useful tools when she's, when you go into a class and somebody's telling you what to look for and to reach for. She is really giving you tools that make your assist you in turning your awareness into your body. And it's so useful. I feel like so many women are missing out. So please, Kemi, introduce yourself.
Hello. Okay, so I'm Kemi from Body Chemistry, and I am a alignment coach, and so I focus on regulating the nervous system, but from an aligned posture and focusing on breathing from an aligned place. And when I align my physical body, I notice that I'm also able to align my emotional body, as well as the spiritual body. And I think that because emotions are intangible, we can't touch them. We often don't know how to deal with them.
Mm.
And I like to address the emotional body by first addressing the physical body. So if you were to bring your awareness back to how you're holding your body in space, and also things like cues like where's your tongue in your mouth, and how your feet are touching the floor, because of how you can sense the ground and the space around you affects and impacts greatly how the rest of your body um, holds itself up in space. Your nervous system is receiving sensory input from your sensory receptors, like on your feet, on your hands. And so understanding where you are in space helps you understand how to um how to be, right? Like, and how to bring yourself back to a place of awareness and control. So what happens is a lot of times we don't feel like we can control our environment, and
Mm.
that creates anxiety and fear and stress.
Mm.
But when we're able to understand that we do have a level of control, there are some things that are within our control. And then when we focus only on that, we can calm ourselves so that we're not operating from a place of fear and anxiety. And so that's basically what I do today. And I have the 7-day challenge going on, and today is day 4. And today we focused on twisting. Day 1, we focused on tongue posture and tongue placement. Day 2, we focused
Was
on,
the feet, right? The
no, no,
feet.
day 2, we focused on pelvis, and day 3, we focused on feet. And today, day 4, we focused on twisting. So move, like twisting the spine in this direction. Normally, we kind of don't do that. We've done, we have people do lateral, maybe, front and back, but people completely forget about twisting. And so that's something that I really wanted to focus on today. And yes, Kwasi, would you like to share your experience about
Yes, yes.
today's
And I'm saying this, I'm speaking as somebody that has been in health and movement, African dance, yoga, capoeira for, it's been going on 4 decades on this path. And I really am a lover of movement because it really helps me to release stress, right? It really helps me to channel. And even after all these years, even after being a coach, like I'm smart enough to know that I keep coaches in my back pocket. Like I have to. And today's cueing, several things I noticed. One of them was the pelvis, right? And your cueing on the pelvis floor was to, feel the sits muscles. Some people might not know what the sits muscles are, but your pelvic floor, like when you look at the skeletons, your pelvis, the way you cued us to take it forward, I was like, oh, I made the distinction because you could assume or translate that one thing is happening. And quite often, as you said, we're mimicking movements. We're going through the motions, but we're missing out. We're leaving so much experience as well as benefits on the table. So when you cued us to place the pelvis, I was thinking like, oh my goodness, all of these years I was not fully tuned in. It's almost like saying, well, where is my pelvis? I've taken anatomy. I've taken all kind of courses. Technically, I know what the pelvis is, but it was like on a deeper level, right? There's someone that I work with. She was like, oh my gosh, I feel like we're learning the same thing again from zero. I was like, well, your awareness is deepening, right? The same lesson, our awareness is deepening. So I really got from your cueing, I really got an image in my head of the pelvis and like tilting it this way and feeling the movement go forward. And so what I got from what you explained is, when we're thinking of the pelvis and the back, we're usually moving from higher up here, right? And the sacrum goes all the way down to your coccyx, that cuckoo's beak. That's all the way down at the bottom. So in placing the weight of my pelvis forward, it was just I had a whole nother understanding of what to do with the instruction you were giving me. And it deepens my awareness on how much we are moving inefficiently and ineffectively. Likely, it gave me more insight into why there's so many injuries, right? Research says 60 to 80% and upwards of people usually get an injury in the first 6 weeks of being in the gym. From being deconditioned, right? Sitting down, the people think the butt is flat when it's really kind of atrophied and it hasn't been asked to move. So it's sleeping like it's been in a cast. The back muscles are turned off. Everything is turned off. So it was such a great distinction. I also noticed that from day 1, the tongue placement. I'm used to doing the breathing in and out through the nose in my yoga practice, but the tongue placement, it gave me another anchor to bring my awareness as my mind is like, are we doing this? The mind is jumping all over the place like a monkey. But then I was thinking like, oh my gosh, my tongue is like, where is my tongue? Am I even aware of my tongue? So just you giving me that cue, I realized I didn't know, I wasn't connected with my body. I was in my mind swirling all over the place. And so I was like, place my tongue in my mouth, so my mind continued to jump. It gave it an anchor, and then the mind continued to jump. So it was like I had more of an anchor. Like I'm not trying to sound esoteric if this sounds foreign to people. What the hell are they talking about? But just being present is tremendous, because once you gave me that cue, it again draws a contrast to like how much I'm not present, even with all that I know. And it's the possibilities are endless for more than aesthetics. I really feel that at any age, the aesthetics will come, but we're not able to really access that without awareness, right? And it's so cerebral. It sounds so technical. It is something to be experienced. It is not intellectual. So that's what I got. Oh, last thing I want to say is a stretch I do all the time. We're laying flat at the end of my moving practice and taking the leg over to the side. And you gave me a cue for that. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. First of all, it felt like one leg is totally much longer than the other. The grounding cue, which I've had that cue before a gazillion times, but the way you articulated, the way that you gave the instruction, it gave me something to do and to be aware of. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just was not what I thought I was.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I can see it, right, from my perspective, because I know what I'm looking at, and I'm like, it's always, it tickles me when I'm like, straighten your leg, and the person's like, it is straight, and I'm like, if it's not, and that's why I'm telling you to straighten your leg. You think it's straight, but you have so much more. If you activate your glute muscles, if you activate your hamstring muscles, and you reach through the heel of your foot and flex your foot, you can access that much more. You can straighten your knee. So, but what happens is, again, especially when we sit down, those muscles just really just deactivate, and then they don't know how. And also because of the shoes that we wear, the restrictive shoes that the big toe goes in, and a lot of people have that Las Vegas, the bunion, and when this happens, this destabilizes all of these muscles all the way here, because you have no support. You're supposed to have this. This helps support you, and it goes all the way up here. But what happens when this goes like this? Now your ankles collapse in this way, and so does all of this.
It's like a whole chain of events. It's like a whole cascading,
Exactly.
like dominoes.
Exactly. And it destabilizes your hips. And then when your hips are off, everything else also has to compensate. And so that's why when we tell people to just breathe, like, it wasn't sufficient for me to be in like to be a breathwork facilitator and then, create the experience of, like to put the music and tell people to breathe. And that's a whole vibe and a whole experience. And there are very talented people who can guide you through a process, right? But I find that it doesn't lead to transformation. It's just like you went and you were entertained, you had a good experience, and now you come out and it's like,
It's very surface level. And I am very keenly aware of something not given what it's supposed to have gave. And many of us, it's not bad or wrong, but we just want the entertainment. But I know specifically, I think from a very young woman, I was looking I was, first of all, fascinated. I'm very fascinated by our tendency to self-sabotage, literally, right? To the point of like offing ourselves fast and slow, as well as self-actualization. Like, I've always liked to watch sprinters and athletes, and I'm thinking like, what's their thought process? And what's the difference between somebody that doesn't seem to have the blockage to have the courage to express their goals, where like nothing can get in their way, money, trauma, like, what is the difference in terms of what's their thought process? What are they thinking of? How did they become that way? Is it natural? Was it cultivated in them? In contrast to self-sabotage, we know we have lots of information, more than ever, but we don't do, right? That lack of alignment. So I noticed those things before I could articulate them, patterns from a child. So I'm like, why would you stick needles in your hand? That's scary. Or like, why would you drink? Like, why would you eat something that would mess your body up? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm fascinated. On a pack of cigarettes, it couldn't be a more graphic picture. Yet we know intellectually, but we don't do, right? So that fascinates me. So I was looking for tools to avoid the trajectory of the cancer, the diabetes, even being a mean parent or a not present parent. I was looking for the tools also to help me cultivate peace, which from in my perspective, even though the music was great in church and it's part of my culture, it did not give, I'm very clear, what it didn't give sufficient tools, sufficient effective, sustainable tools. And at some point I could articulate that obviously people are feeling some type of pain, that after the gospel music and after Sunday and after we leave, it fizzles out. They got to go get another hit next Sunday. And it doesn't seem to transform people's behavior or their desire to hurt themselves or the people that they love. So I was looking for tools, like what causes that awareness, that consciousness that causes you to refrain from hurting yourself and to hurt others. So that's led me on this path. And so I'm finding that that's what I'm looking for with movement, all the different types of movement. I'm very keenly aware that the breath and calming myself down, and that's not always easy in a triggering environment.
I was
Go
going
ahead.
to say, in order to really also do that, this work isn't for everybody, right? Because everyone is not at a place where they really want to be held accountable and they want to be honest. So for me, it's like, it I can help someone who is willing to really meet themselves honestly in the moment. And if, for example, if I give you a cue, like let's say, okay, so we were doing that twist, that stretch. Everybody's seeing this stretch in every yoga class. The arms are out in the T position, your leg is lifted up and it's crossed to one side and your head is the other way. But I'm like, why is your pelvis all the way up off of the floor? Like, so what should we be thinking about? We should always be thinking about opposition, right? You have to think about how we create force, right? And power in the body. So we have both sides. So we should always be feeling there's east and west and there's a pull north and south. And so our bodies should be equally activated on all sides, but in different directions. So that being said, if I am twisting and I'm really supposed to be creating that power and that twist, then that means both sides of my body have to be working equally. Now, they're going in different directions, but that leg, now how much more could you get? And that's why I was saying you would leave it. It's like leaving money on the table. It's like your leg is like here, right? This is your leg. Like, I'm gonna do it. So you can see what So this is me and all my tools on the floor. So like leg down. So this is what happens. So first of all, the leg is giving this, right? Giving bent. It's also, this could be here, especially if you're not paying attention to your pelvis. So you have all this space in between here. And then you go over and you're like, okay, because you just want your foot on the floor. All of this is now up off of the floor. You see? All of this is up. This pelvis is not back. So you didn't create opposition here because this is all the way up. So now what I try to do is bring the awareness so that you're anchored with the back of your hands and your shoulder. You're anchored. This bottom leg is working. It is extending.
So that's with that heel on the ground, driving into the ground.
It is digging into the ground. And equally, this heel, see, when you're like this, there's not, but if you push through that heel and reach towards the ceiling, but also reach down with the opposite heel, now you have equal activation in both sides, in different directions, but you have the activation. Now, pressing the hands back into the floor and your head also, facing and reaching towards the opposite side of the leg that's up. Right now you go over, and the intention is not just to mimic this move like this. You see how you just collapse and you let go all of the power and the engagement. You lift up here as far as you can breathe, right? And now you engage. So
okay, Kim, I'm going to be honest with you. That it becomes a total another kind of experience than it's no longer entertaining.
No,
and if it wasn't for I'm gonna be honest, if it wasn't for, I mean, I do love movement, the discomfort, because if you're being active, engaged, like I call it like mind your own business fitness. You're so in your body, shaking, trying to push that heel and be active, and then like the cueing to place your hands and place them on the floor and press into the floor and press the back of your head into the floor. It's so active, even though to the somebody looking on, it looks like nothing, that you actually want to escape. I might be wanting to escape, but if it wasn't for my curiosity of knowing what the benefits are and seeing little changes, and also really seeing where my mind is going and how unstable the mind is, the curiosity keeps me coming back, as well as like the opening after we finally get to let go of this it's a very working pose, because I started to get hot and sweat from something that looked like it was nothing. I felt like my whole body heating up, not a hot flash because I am menopausal, but I was feeling myself like activating muscles to really hold it. And that was actually quite a bit of work. So it makes you want to, like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and that's
I mean, I didn't want to leave, but I can see how you would want to escape, or like, this isn't for me. Let me just get the entertainment with the, the yoga music, etc.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because, like, I think I'm just at a point in my journey where I'm like, this is what it is, and this is because this is what I found and I do for me. I'm also very, like, I have a very active practice, so I do this. This is what helps me get deeper into my practice and also stay more grounded and calm in my life so that I can handle whatever the situation is. And if anybody wants to be able to experience this level of peace and calm, like, but from a genuine place and not just performative, then this is what it is. And not everybody is there, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. People might be just at a different point in their journey, and sometimes a simple thing like the walking or the yoga class with the music might be a gateway drug, if you will, a gateway to them eventually looking for something else or having a little bit of a different experience. But I know that I need the feel good drugs generated from I've known, seeing people come up on so much drugs around me. I was like, when I learned and educated myself that there are drugs that are that are secreted from your own organs.
Yes.
And I have felt that, like the awareness, or I make the distinction for myself between what I would call fuel and energy, right? The fuel being the food. But I could tell you there have been times where I've been dog tired or down, and I'm like, and it's not food that I need. I can feel a distinct difference in being energized from a movement practice. Like there have been times I've even felt like I've had a deep rest, like a deep sleep, or got more restfulness out of my movement practice than I did from sleep.
Yeah,
so those are things that keep me coming back.
Yeah, because you can release tension. Because there's like, that's the thing, is that without awareness, and if we have traumatic experiences, right? And all of us have some sort of trauma, and it doesn't have to be like super crazy, like, and being in a burning building, but it just could be anything. It could be bills, whatever it is, or a broken heart, or a lover cheated, or whatever, you know what I mean? Or a death, grief, whatever it is, if it's experienced in the body as trauma, and if you don't process it and deal with it in a healthy way, and you don't discharge the energy out of the body, right? Because that's the natural response to trauma. And if you just hold on to it, suppress it, because, people are people, and then they don't want people to know that they've experienced anything. They have shame, they have guilt, they have fear. All of those things prevent us from completing the trauma release cycle. And now it just stays with us. And then we hold tension, and we don't even know that we're holding tension. So when you are able to have a movement practice that allows you to become aware of where you're holding tension, and then you are able to create that power to release it, right? Because now you're understanding how to use your body, how to use your muscles to create that force and that power, and to be able to contract and release, because we could all contract, but the release, right? So being able to train your body to do that, then after that tension is released from the body, now of course you can rest. Because you've been walking around with all that for all this time, and you didn't even know. So
we usually hear this from it sounds very like parroting. We parrot this, and just my perspective, like, I don't think that a lot of there's a term in Sanskrit, I think it's called rasa, that come, or it's like a juiciness or electricity or a transformative power. I don't think a lot of what we see on social media has rasa or juice, particularly in this age where it's so easy. Anybody online right now can go and get a certification, right? Do a quick online certification, but there's not necessarily a level of, well, just of input and experience, right? Of their experience and then also holding space for others. So even though some people may be naturally bendy or be able to get into an asana or a posture, this nuances of it, right? Even those little where to place the tongue, or you being able to have the insight, no, you're not active, you're not flexing through your heel, or even knowing the different body parts are instead of just repeating stuff are. People aren't able to give those instructions if they don't have a personal practice themselves. So that doesn't mean you can't be a different body type or shape, because you can if you have that kind of a practice. But I do find that certain things start to line up if you have your own practice. So on social media, if everything is so curated, made up, you can't tell who's doing what. I can kind of perceive, so it's not just, I've been around a lot of beautiful bodies in the fitness industry, yet the transformative power usually I find is from people that have their own, like a very disciplined practice for themselves, where like they themselves need the practice, right? They themselves are, I'm like, you would think like, what is this person going to school, and why are you going to India every year? Like, is it that serious? Every year for what? So there are certain personalities that are drawn, as you said, to these practices. I would definitely say that, and you can let me know what your thoughts are. I often think more and more every year that these tools are so important to particular groups who grew up without tools, who didn't have therapy. Or when I was growing up, I remember people saying like, vanilla folks, they let their children do whatever, and they so expressive, and we ridicule, other people supporting, our cultural differences, supporting their children and being expressive, or expressing themselves. We look at it as disrespectful if they're wearing a butterfly costume to school. We would beat our children if they do that. We wouldn't have the, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lack of awareness or experience. So certain people are drawn to this, and it's a lot of tools that we need so desperately. We've got more. I'm not anti-makeup or fashion, I love those things, but they're not transformative. They don't have they're superficially transformative, and we can say I look good, and I can say I love myself, yet we have so much functional alcoholism, functional drug addicts, and all types of professionals, corporate world, lawyers, chefs, that are broke down and depressed. And you like, this person's so successful, and then they walked off a building. We have people broken and crushed inside, and you can't see it necessarily with your eyes because there's a lack of tools, especially in our community. You can let me know what your thoughts are there.
I will tell you exactly my thoughts. So I grew up, in Harlem originally. That's where I'm from. And then my family moved. But I'm from New York City. I'm from, African-American family. And my parents did not have the tools. And I know that they did the best that they could. And they thought, okay, at least have what we didn't have, like a nuclear family, like stay together, like that. Like that was, but they did not know how to really be together, and they didn't know how to communicate in a healthy way, without getting defensive or, or combative, right? They didn't understand how to conflict resolution. They didn't understand. They also, just as individuals, didn't have like necessarily, oh, where'd she go? Okay, sorry. They didn't have, self-love for themselves. We grew up, well, I grew up in an era, one of your things, we deserve to be comfortable in our skin without natural hair. I grew up where colorism was a huge thing. And so being dark skinned was like, or having your features, my big nose was often the topic of conversation, or, God forbid it be summer and I go out and get darker. So like, they didn't have that self-love to be able to pass that on to me and my sister. But when I got to private school, because I was always quite like academic, intellectual, spiritual, whatever, like always just that oddball, I don't know. And when I was in the private school, we were reading this book, Getting to Yes. I remember.
That title sounds very familiar.
I was like mind blown. First time ever. We had a whole class called like human relations. And I was like, what? Like dumbfounded. I was like, they teach this. They teach you how to solve conflicts. They teach you how to negotiate. They teach you these things. This is a skill.
Life skills. Those are life
skill.
skills.
Right. And I would I remember that book because I remember going home and trying to implement some of these tools, and it was met
And what was the response? I gotta know, what was the response?
resistance in the world. Oh, those people, don't let them people brainwash you. You know, they talk, they do this, they do that, blah, 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 blah. That's not how we do it. You talking back, you know, all the things. And it's just like, it was so interesting because on the one hand, it was like a catch-22. The one hand, consciously, they know education is important, right? But they don't know what they don't know. So when I got the education and now the education that I have requires me to show up differently, it requires me to challenge some of the ways that they think and their habits. It's like, wait a minute, don't do that. Well, don't come over here with that. But that's the education. that's why I'm moving differently, because I have a new awareness. I have an understanding of how a different way to approach this particular scenario or this situation. But you know, and then that also requires you to be open to change. But when you're fearful or you're in your ego, right, and you think that as the parent you know best, and you don't know, like, you don't want to give space for a child because they're younger than you to voice their opinion or express themselves or to, you know, anything like that. You know, it was clash, but I do understand exactly what you're saying. And I do think that there are certain groups of people, because of their upbringing and because of their culture, and it's not just us, but there are other, you know, folks that, they just grew up in a society that did not really give them the proper tools to be able to handle their emotions, recognize them, honor them, and then communicate from a place that really honored where they were in their own needs, right? And so that is what causes, I think, a lot of the, you know, the type of addictive behavior and stuff like that, because here we are with needs that are unmet, and we don't have the tools to express that to the people around us. So we can't communicate that effectively. And now we're just suppressive and we're trying to just get by and perform whatever the social norm is. However, I'm supposed to show up in this particular culture, in this particular religion, in this particular group or construct. And that seems so contrary to whatever you have going on internally. And that dissonance between who you are and how you feel and who you portray yourself to be is what is experienced, is that depression, anxiety, fear, shame, guilt, all of that. So that's why I talk about alignment, because being aligned is not just about walking straight, but it is about walking straight, not just physically, but standing on business, standing on your word, completing and fulfilling and honoring your word, when and recognizing when you have not honored your word, what has gotten in the way. And
so then that's a very specific tool, because that course I took that with my son to get those. That's a whole tool. You know, if you can't keep your word, you can still honor your word. And to that sounds like, you know, why you being sassy? That's what I'll probably get. Why you talking white? You know, that was such a powerful distinction. You can't keep your word. So maybe I can't get there on time, but I can call you beforehand to say, well, I'm not going to be there on time. Can we reschedule, or letting you know in order to honor your time? So that would be honoring my word. It seems like such a simple thing, but that is a powerful distinction. And so being able to have tools, you know, we're walking around thinking everything is gravy, even though our results are not.
You got to look at the
bearing
results,
fruit,
because
that's confrontational. That's hard, and it could make people very angry, reactive. I remember I saw on TV. I saw the Brady Bunch. You know, I'm a Sesame Street girl, and I remember the show The Brady Bunch. And I remember it was two divorcees that had come together to join their families, and they had some housekeeping named Alice. But they had a family meeting, and I was like, we should have a family meeting, because I'm doing all the dishes for I don't know how many grandchildren, 8 to 13 grandchildren. And I was like, why don't we just divvy this out, you know, have a family meeting? And I took that to my mom, and I got such a look and such a talking to. Who do you think you're talking to? Don't sass me. There she go being sassy again. And I was like, I just want to have a family
suggestion.
It was just yeah. And I was like, can we go to the Grand Canyon? Because the Brady Bunch had a station wagon. I was like, that's it, a station wagon? I said, we got a station wagon. Why can't we just pack some, some sandwiches and some Kool-Aid and go to the Grand Canyon? What's the big deal? So just to make those distinctions are powerful, but also you don't know what you don't know. And then when something else comes on your radar, it's confronting, especially if no one else around you is having the conversation. So that's another reason why I really appreciate you just as a teacher and as a student. Is just to have someone willing to have the conversation where, for example, you're not forcing somebody. I can tell you how many people in my community, my family, I have paid for them to take the class, had somebody came in from another country to teach them the class, put everybody in cabs to go to the class for healthy eating. I mean, taking my brothers to yoga and busing everybody to the food co-op. And it was like just dragging people. So to find other people, I wanted people to, you want to go running with me to the lighthouse just to see how far we could go. Nobody for years was interested. I even bought fitness equipment for all my friends to work out with me. For years. I had fitness equipment for all my friends. I was like, okay, this is so-and-so and so-and-so. And they never came. They never came to work out. So a good thing, I also figured that the beautiful thing with movement is something I could do on my own, that I did not have to wait for people. Yeah. And at some point I figured if I just had the courage to get on the train and go to the class by myself, I would meet people there. It's a whole nother conversation when you're not forcing somebody it's just a whole nother experience.
That's what we're doing these days. It's 2025. I'm just magnetizing and attracting and engaging folks that also want to be engaged in this type of conversation and in this type of this way of being and interacting. And I'm not forcing people. I'm not, dragging you and buying all the things for you, and you're not doing, I'm not doing that,
It's actually, as a matter of fact, I would say culturally, we have been known to do that as, chocolate women. It's a big part of our culture. I would even say we have a great sense of pride in it. We'll tell you about, I got this person, I do this. You meet people and you ask them about themselves, and our identity is usually our children, but without making bad or wrong. And so if people have to separate and say who we are as individuals and not our children, it's almost like, do we have an identity? Like, what do we ever want to do? Right? I remember asking my mother when I became an adult, Mom, what did you want to do or be when you were growing up? Did you ever want to dance? What did you want to go to school for? And she couldn't come up with anything.
I asked my mom, I was like, just for thought, just because who are you? What do you want? She had retired. She moved here. I'm like, you can do anything. What do you want to do? She had no idea. And then I was like, well, okay. I was like, let me frame it like this. If you had 10 days to live, what would you do with this time that you had? And she thought about it, and she still couldn't think of anything.
Oh, wow.
She was like, I guess, and then she started kind of naming stuff that she already does, but she was like, I don't know. I think she said travel. And I was like, oh, okay, where would you travel? And she couldn't name a place. And I'm wow. So it just showed me, and I'm not making her wrong. I'm just saying, as an example, that we don't really think about things deeply. Even my daughter, sorry. Sorry. Okay. So even her right now, she's in a space, she's about to be 16, she's having a party and she wants to invite people, but she goes to this school and I don't love necessarily the people in the school, and she doesn't necessarily love them either, but she's trying to pull from the pool that's there, and it's of the lesser evils. But I'm like, okay, so we're literally just trying to scrape the dregs of the thing, or the bottom of the barrel, and try to make it work. And I'm like,
it's if I don't like either choice,
right, it's how do I choose? And I'm like, you can create communities now
Yes.
based off of who you are. You get to be clear. Like, I was like, who do you want to hang out with? And then she starts thinking about, well, who's around? And I'm like, no, 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 no. I didn't ask you about who's around. Who do you want to be around? How do you see yourself? What lights you up? What type of people? And then when you think about that, it's like, oh, I guess I could. We had a revelation today. She's right here. Kimani, would you like to share your revelation about your choreography? Okay.
No.
Okay, no, she doesn't want to share.
Knock off the day before my party.
Okay, you can tell me about that later. Talk about it later. You have to talk about it after at 3:00. Thank you.
That's actually a really important distinction, right? Like that's actually a mind-blowing distinction to think of, like, and I think we spoke about this the other day, like sometimes we turn down opportunities because we feel our role, we are conditioned. Your role as a mother, you can only do this, 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 and that. So it didn't occur to you, well, like I said, let's say, for example, I said to my son, I told him, and many people would probably be like, oh, I said, I don't care if it takes you 10 years to go to school. I think you should enjoy your education. You should have fun. You're paying for it. I said, if you're in New York City, you can create whatever you want, and you don't have to necessarily go into debt. You want to study Japanese? I said, why don't we look up the Japanese embassy and see what kind of holiday parties they have. If they have some language groups, why don't we go to the library? I said, there's always people there trying to learn English. They have English speaking groups where people want to learn English. You could be their buddy. I said, I think you should find some people of other cultures and stuff, and you should find some other friends with other perspectives. And maybe they're good with studying. Maybe they're good with other types of cuisine. Maybe you have other things that they'd be interested in learning, like, breakdancing or about hip hop. I think you should have other friends that you really want to be with. You shouldn't have to force yourself. So I know I was like, when I'm a parent, I was like, when I have a child, I want to be able to make those distinctions for them so they can not have such a hard time through child, and still they have like a challenging time. But even I'm thinking I'll be 56, that right there, even though you're talking about your daughter, that's such an important distinction. You may think you're limited by your environment or who your family is, or if you're in a marriage situation, you may think, well, this is it. This is all, and that's the mentality. It spills over into your body. Thinking that there's no possibilities it's a state of being. It has a feeling, it has an emotion to it. And this also, I think, drives a lot of our mindless consumption, right? Because there's a lack of creativity and a lack of creativity, a lack of being. It just has a vibe to it, so you kind of stop trying, and we become very complacent. It's like an energy. You carry that energy.
Effect.
Yeah, it's a feeling and a vibe you don't even realize. And I would say definitely with women, it's like sometimes I'm fat. I get it, but then sometimes also we don't always see ourselves. I'm like, how come? I was like, why we won't take care of ourselves? I was like, don't we see that nobody's coming to save us? Don't we see?
It's the same thing you posted, and I liked it. Remember I did see you post the young lady who was in shape and was talking about, well, if you're not in shape, I don't think you deserve to be in like a relationship, because you can only love somebody as much as you love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, how can you share love or or show love to somebody else? And
that was so triggering, by the way, to many people, and I see how.
I see how, because she was just confident and matter of fact. I don't think she was arrogant. I think she was just.
I think I could be perceived as, but I think it confronted a group in a sense that doesn't get confronted because there's a power dynamic. And I think it's very easy for us to see this with men, because men, you could call them out on being volatile or whatever, or violent. You can see it. We could say with our vanilla counterparts. It's easy to see, but it is much harder to see yourself, because it was just really jarring how consistent, if you looked into the comments, well, let's see, when you have children, or the excuses.
It's the excuses, and that's what it is. It's excuse. And so people have been so dishonest with their own selves a whole time, and they've created excuses and fought for their limitations and explained away all the reasons why they're in the physical condition that they're in. It's because of my babies. My mother would always be like, it's because of you I got these stretch marks. It's because and they're like, I'm like, okay, maybe the stretch marks, okay, maybe stretch marks, but like the actual condition of your body, like you could work out, you could have, because I understand, like, even for example, I had a client, she had, I don't know why I hate saying this word, but diastasis recti.
Diastasis recti from the baby when it separates.
Like that, when it separates. But this is just normal. Now, naturally, it would come back together if you were in a condition already beforehand. But if you have laxity in the muscles, in the abdominal muscles, because you have an anterior pelvic tilt and you don't exercise these muscles in this way, when you have a baby, it exacerbates it. And then you sit around, if you're taking care of the baby and doing all the things and you're not working out and not moving and not engaging those muscles and not stabilizing, then it gets worse. Now, does that mean that, oh, okay, well, that's just, the doctor diagnosed me with that and that's just what it is? A lot of people are just like, oh, it's just because of childbirth and that's just what it is. And I'm just going to like stay like this because that's just
what it is. I'd be on YouTube looking for what do you do to counter and to heal diastasis recti, pelvic floor stuff. What do I need to do? That's one of my main principles for myself personally. Okay, what is it I need to do? All I need to know is what I need to do to improve myself. I've always said that's my best bet. That's all I got going for me is what is it that I can do, regardless of budget, location, relationship. All I need to know is that's what I'm big on. What tools can I administer to myself? That's all I need to know. That's my focus.
But the other people, the women who were triggered by that comment, are the women who have allowed themselves to rely on their excuses as to why they just stay and are they in that position. Because it is confronting to be like, dang, that's a lot of work. When you start looking it up, you're like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. Yes, you do. Or you don't. You don't have to do it and you stay as you are. And then and that's what people do. People get very comfortable as they are. They start doing other things like external, very surface things to make themselves feel good about their appearance and who they are, and then they surround themselves with other people who are also like, yes, you're perfect.
That's been me. That's me, because we're very creative women of the Afro diaspora. Our hair is some of the most versatile hair. But I do remember distinguishing a time where it felt like every time something was going on, well, definitely, my hair used to be like this. So every time I was feeling something, I would just shave my hair. I had bought some clippers, and I would just shave. It was like taking a shower. And then when I was growing it out, I would change my hair. And that was nice. That was well and good. But I could distinguish a pattern. I could distinguish that I was soothing myself with changing. I was soothing myself by changing outside exterior. So that wasn't wrong. Yet I wasn't addressing what was underneath the hood, right? What was really there. So I was soothing myself, right? It wasn't a negative type of soothing, but I wasn't getting to what was uncomfortable. And I can now distinguish that part of our intelligence, the ego, does have a purpose, but it's part of its characteristic is to stay the same and comfort over everything. So if that comfort is crack, if that comfort is alcohol, if that comfort is a toxic relating, but it's familiar to me, it will stay there. So going back again to our families, I can distinguish that even though I felt better with the music and all that other stuff in church, I didn't have the tools. I couldn't make those distinctions in my mind to understand my psyche, what is driving my autopilot behaviors.
Yeah, especially when you mentioned about like religion and you didn't say in this transmission about spiritual bypassing, but that's ultimately what it is. Like when you're going to church and you're praying it away and Jesus and all the things. But what I find, this is me and my understanding, my relationship to those spaces, is that people go there to feel better. They go there for relief. I get that. But what happens is it's like they're taking the onus away from themselves, like they're taking the power away from themselves and they're giving it to some other entity, some other being, some other person. Like Jesus died for me, like Jesus paid the price. It's like, so now I don't have to, look at this thing anymore. I can just let it go and let the fact that Jesus died on the cross.
That is so, let me tell you, that might be upsetting some other people. My godfather, you know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. He gave me an assignment. You remind me of one of I might have to write a book on the little gems that he gave me. He gave me an assignment all the time. I was like, why do we have to do this? He told me to go and research. He said, I want you to research why. He wanted me to research the origins of Christmas and Easter. And he said, I want you to understand why the church is packed, especially if no other time of the year, Christmas and Easter. And I'm like, what are we doing this for? So I wound up looking at for Easter, the goddess of started there, and Esther, like the prototypes, of the Easter bunny and the symbol. All of this research for both of them. And every year, for years, I've been contemplating the same lesson. And I came out with something out of after all of those years. All of those years, I was like, oh my gosh, this is, in my perspective, such a scam. Now, I'm not saying that people can't take and transmute and rearrange, you know, those different rituals and beliefs and change the context. Right. You are able to do that, especially if you're aware. But I became aware, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a powerful, even gory ritual, which triggers more fear and more emotions. The ritual was constantly driven that you don't really have to feel the accountability for the guilt or the shame or the weight of everything that you have done, because that's a heavy weight to bear, what you have done. Because the ritual is eat the bread, drink the wine, representing the blood. It's gory like that for a reason, because that makes it stick inside the consciousness, right? Because you don't have to take accountability. I was like, oh my gosh, Jesus is literally is a get out of jail free card. But the scam is that you don't realize that you're giving over your sovereignty, right? It's like everybody blaming the government and the government. Okay, yes, the government. But the language is so disempowering. The language, I'm very keen to disempowering language. Not to say I'm immune to it, but I do strive. I have a certain level of awareness to it, where it becomes a very self-fulfilling victim mentality, where we're going to be comfort. We're going to get the comfort. We're going to be made to feel better. Go ahead.
Sorry, this just came to me. So this morning I meant to share it in the class and I did not. It was about obedience and alignment. So I was listening to Neville Goddard, and he was talking about how you, as a person, like the word obedience, and I don't know if this part was Neville Goddard. This might be me and somebody else or whatever, but he was talking about the word obedience, and really obedience really is just like walking in alignment with, right? Because if you're obedient to your mission, right? Whatever the mission is, whatever your purpose is, whatever you declared that you were going to do in the world, if you are walking in obedience to that, then you're walking in alignment with that. However, because of the word obedience in the English language, the connotation that it has,
the connotation of master, slave, or beating into submission,
and a loss of sovereignty. And that's not, and I think that is, that's why it's really hard for me to get into a lot of the Christian messaging, because the wording is very disempowering. It's like fearing God, and it's like, no, there's fear in God, and then there's the actual word. I guess I think it was in either Hebrew or Greek. It really means like to be in awe of, like, which is more reverence.
So the context is everything. Context is everything. I'm highly aware that we could both think we're saying the same thing. Like, let's say we're hunters and gatherers. Well, you could be a hunter and gatherer of bison or elk, or you could be a hunter and gatherer of greens and berries. Mm-hmm. Two totally different contexts, yet we're assuming, I think more than ever in groupthink, we're assuming that we all mean the same thing. We have a tendency, I think also culturally, to bully and shame folks into the context of what's popular with the group. And it doesn't make room for new ideas or new solutions.
Right, because they're operating from fear. And it's like, God forbid I entertain your thought process. And what if you are right? Then that must mean that I am wrong. So when people work from that framework, like, okay, well, we can't both be right and have two different perspectives, then it's like, well, then I have to be the right one, and now you have to be wrong. And that's where the division comes. And that's where I personally check out, because I don't have time. I'm not going to argue with nobody. I'm not trying to convince you of nothing. I'm just looking at the fruit. I'm looking at, like, the fruit of your labor. What have you done in the world? What have you created? Are you just popping off at the mouth and talking about these people and those people and looking for all the reasons why you're the victim and you don't have? Or are you the person who is like, I don't care what the circumstances is. This is my mission. This is my objective. And I'm going to fulfill that, with integrity, right? But I'm going to do that, and I'm going to fulfill that no matter what else anybody else has to say about it. That's the type of time I'm on. Those are the type of relationships that I entertain and I cultivate, and those are the people that I want to interact with. And so with that being said, I don't got nothing.
You said something about alignment that was like, I felt like it so was like in alignment. I was like, bam. I feel like I've said the same thing, or it was just so in alignment that you said this. I know I wrote it down. I had to get up to go get my book. I can't find where I wrote it, but this one, you said something about alignment in your word, and it was so beautifully confronting. It's beautifully confronting. Again, we like to run, we have a tendency to run away from discipline or uncomfortable conversations. It was beautifully confronting in terms of the possibilities. It was so affirming. So I can't remember verbatim what you said, but the energy of what I got was, it was like a reminder, like, if you're not doing what you said you were going to do, you're out of alignment, period, with what your divine purpose is. It has nothing to do with Trump, Democratic, Republican, black, white, nothing. It has nothing. If you're not doing what you are called, when you're quiet, in your quiet moments, what you're called to do, you are out of alignment. And if you're not keeping your word, you're out of alignment. If you are not doing what you said you were going to do, when you said you were going to do, and if you're not honoring your word, right? Because that's your creed while you have a human suit, then you are out of alignment. And that is going to show up in not keeping your word to your practices, not, as the woman girl was saying. And that's what I got from the young lady. If you're not taking care of your body, you're out of alignment, but you're calling yourself this religion and that religion. So I'm just very clear. It's not what you call yourself. Your religion is what you do, not what you say. So I can get two peach pits about your label. It's not what you do. It is only what you're saying.
And that's what, so I wrote down this from this morning. There are two things. Well, anything less than obedience is self-betrayal. So if you are not in alignment with the calling on your life, if you set out with one intention, and your actions that you take daily, no matter how tiny, no matter who's looking, if those actions are not in alignment with the objective that you have set for yourself for that day, then that is self-betrayal, because you are doing something that's going to take you further away from what your goal is. And it's really as simple as that. We don't have to, it is not good or bad or morally right or whatever it is. It's just really matter of fact.
That betrayal word, though, that's loaded, because again, I think particularly as women, when we come to social media or we come to environments, and it's like, I'm not meaning this as a it's empowering, very, can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Oh, somebody was calling. Yeah. Our language becomes disempowered. It's like, it sounds victimhood in terms of the lack of accountability, right? Like, we want so bad for somebody to comfort us and tell us it's okay, but we miss out on the opportunity. And I'm not saying it's easy a lot of times, right? We totally miss the opportunity for growth. We will go towards random, any site, we'll scroll till we get the validation, right? But that validation invites you to stay the same and not to grow. We won't go into the space. We avoid investing in growth. We'll spend money for the hair, and not making it wrong. We'll spend money for the outer appearance before we go into circles that will challenge us physically, that will challenge our perspective on toxic communication. We'll pay for the outside, the look and the Spanx and the nails, and the communication is lacking, which is going to affect our children, which is going to affect us. We refuse to have the uncomfortable conversation. I get it. I wouldn't say I'm immune, but I strive to be aware, because that has a cost. It has a cost to it. It's going to be very expensive. Not being able to communicate, not being able to communicate with other races of people, not being able to communicate with men, whoever you choose to partner, not partner, decenter, whatever, not being able to communicate effectively, even though you may disagree. That's not the point. But if you're not able to communicate effectively, it has such a cost. All of this is stemming from being out of alignment, which is like, in a crude term, lying to ourselves, being dishonest. Most of the spaces that we're in popular culture invite us to vices, to numb out, and to not take accountability. And I think that's dangerous for women. And we've been kind of like, we've plateaued We've plateaued here. And so the superficial changes, they don't stick. They don't give what it's, they don't pack the punch, which is why you need more. It's like when you get high, you got to get more and more high because it's weaker and weaker. So there's only but so much you can change, stretch, and stuff inside the body, but it's not hitting the inside of you being honest or confronting. This is not what I want to do. This is not what I'm called to do. My muscle of self-reflection and discipline for myself is weak. We do it for the job because you have to. But if they started, let's say, for example, laying us off in droves, then what? You don't have to even have your health. You have no ability to calm your nervous system.
Yep.
That's a frightening.
You're going to be on edge. You're going to be looking for somebody to blame. You're going to be looking.
So what can you do but numb out? You know, at the point, it's like those muscles are so atrophied, so weak, and like we can't bear critique. We can't bear this. It's like, I'm like, have we gotten to the point where we can't tolerate discipline? These are things I think about. Can we not tolerate critique? Can we not tolerate discipline? So that's kind of like a recipe for Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, you and I can go on all day because we are of the same mindset. You know, I think it's important to even have these conversations because I think there are many people who've never even thought this way. You know, it comes naturally for me to think this way because my natural tendency is to be at peace, period. So if I am not experiencing peace, I'm looking for where is the misalignment? How do I need to move so that things can flow efficiently? And that's just my thought process. And
You said something though before, I think it was before we got on the call. Again, and it's like, because I don't want to have this conversation and make it sound like it's so easy and I'm so evolved, you know, and all my decisions are the right decision. I'm just at another place, maybe perhaps on the spectrum, you know, of self-sabotage and self-actualization. But you said something that I was like, that really, I'm gonna be honest with you, made me think like there's certain people, and I can count on less than, I think, a hand, that when I come away from the communication, I'm motivated to get into action. I have a litmus test. I'm inspired to get into action. Like my godmother, Salkasre, my grandmother, she's no longer here, but there's certain people I feel it's a specific type of energy. I'm inspired to get into action. It's not like you're just like, yeah, girl, yeah, like when you're just placating me or stroking my ego, that hold me accountable and that are also holding themselves accountable and utilizing certain tools in their own life. So there's actual exchange of growth. When I come together with these people, I feel challenged. You know, I feel curious. I know that there are other tools. So you were saying in essence about something, maybe, I'm sure I'm paraphrasing, that you could be down about something, but if you're out of alignment, you could follow being down instead of staying committed to your path. That's an alignment. And when you are in alignment, other things, affirming things are going to show up on your radar. Not because it's Mukaju, but because something else is literally on your radar. That means if you're in alignment, then you are looking for something else.
And so this is to give more context so that other people understand basically what I was saying, because I was just speaking from a real life experience. I had gone to the bank to speak with somebody in particular, and I got there, she wasn't there, but somebody else was there. So I could have been like, oh man, and they told me where she was, so I could have just left there immediately and gone to the other place. But again, when we ask the question, sometimes we already have in our mind what we want it to be. We have a vision. And so sometimes when we go with that intention and then we receive a no or a closed door or what is like perceived as a closed door, we get upset and we're like, and then we give in to all the fear or the doubt, as opposed to if you were truly in alignment, then you would understand and receive and meet every closed door with still a confidence, an eagerness, a curiosity, because yes, this door, acceptance, you would accept that, okay, this door is closed and I'm still in alignment. I'm still on my journey. So that means that if this door is closed, this is not the door for me to go through in order to reach this particular like goal or mission. So it's just really what I'm saying is that if we are if we accept reality, so if we can be honest about where we are, we can see where we are in relationship to our goal, right? And how much in alignment we are. And the task is, because we are people and we do fall short and sometimes we do get misaligned and we go off track, but be aware and ask yourself the very simple question: this path that I'm about to go down, is this bringing me closer to my goal or further away? And think about, not even in terms of the particulars, like, you know, because you might think, oh, in particular, like this actual circumstance, I needed to be at this bank for this reason. And then I get there and it's not that. But think emotionally. Okay, how do I want to feel? I want to feel at peace. I want to feel like abundant. I want to feel joyful, you know, bank money, abundance, clarity, all the things. And if this moment seems like this is not it, I'm still holding on to clarity, abundance, joy, gratitude. I'm still holding on to that feeling, and that from that emotional state, that emotional body alignment is going to now carry me to the next step, to the next open door,
to the next choice.
Right.
What to eat? Should I go to today's class? Because this is 6:30 and I just did something else. So should I go or should it? So that you're saying is so key. This is what people might think this is not connected to movement, but it is so connected to movement, because I find the movement is the place to practice that and to engage that conversation with yourself. With yourself, my next choice. If we're not taking care of our body, we're out of alignment. Right? It doesn't matter what we call ourselves. Oh. Is this ending?
Oh, I'm here. I still see you.
Okay, so it's asking me to slide a puzzle piece.
Oh, okay. We probably should. I know because you.
Yeah, it's time to end. So I think that was a signal to end. So always such a beautiful conversation. But the take home is, perhaps consider that quite often we are out of alignment, and it shows up in our choices. So it's not about. I think people took it as an attack. Somebody is fat phobia. No, that's not it. Because the body is simply showing our collection of habits and our mental conditioning, our mental habits. And our choices are in line with our thoughts. So if we are out of alignment, it's showing, and it's our choices, and it shows up with whether or not you choose to go do a movement practice, with what you choose to put in your mouth, with who you choose to give access to your body. It doesn't mean you need to beat yourself up, but can you stay present and accountable with that information and quiet that you get from yourself, from your own internal compass? Do you have tools to regularly check in with your internal compass, so you can be like, we out of alignment. Are you out of alignment most of the time, most of the day?
Yeah. And then, these are definitely great reflective questions. And I hope that people really consider them. I hope that people
Well, I do want to say, folks, please, I implore you, I invite you to please go follow Kemi Blake. That's to your advantage. Follow us both on social media, because these are the types of conversations that we're having. So when you get off of this communication, hopefully as you're decluttering or chopping up your vegetables, you're inspired to get into action. This also, to me, very clear, is the value, one of the most important things of coaching and your circle. I know I've paid to be in certain circles, because I was like, if it's not my family and the people around me, these are the kinds of conversations that are so helpful. They're so useful to stimulate me to come up with solutions and to feel supported. So I want to invite people to, and women out there, consider how you're investing in yourself. Are you getting something back for the complaining and just, enabling each other to stay the same? What kind of conversations are you having? Are you pushing safely, though, with curiosity past your limits? Or are you just saying, I'm old and this is how my body has to be? And buying into that narrative, because that's what that conversation was about. That's what I got that women were defending. And it was a lack of possibilities. It was confronting, and most were not honest about that. Sure. And that's quite a way to deal with the younger generation. So how can we inspire trust?
We can have a retreat.
That's true. So that is something, if you folks are interested in coming to meet me on the river in Belize, with Body Chemistry. If you're interested in being immersed in whole living foods, a daily movement practice, garden / nature therapy, and these types of embodied practices and taking these home with you, then reach out and let me know if you are serious. So you might have some vacation time laying around that you're not using, and maybe you want to do something different than go get high and get drunk. Maybe you really want to cultivate practices to really stay with you until your hair turns white. Because these practices won't leave you. When flaky humans leave you, these practices won't leave you. So a retreat, if you'd like to come on a retreat with us, reach out and follow Kemi Blake on Instagram, on YouTube, because her following is really growing. Please support and share, because this is making a good use of the internet. These are folks you want to make use of. Any final notes, Kemi?
No, I think we said it all. I think we said it all in this transmission. But yeah, no, I'm super excited to create more spaces for people, especially women, to be able to be honest with themselves, right? And yeah, so that they can really create a life that they love truly, from the inside out. And so that is it. That's my intention. I have the 7-day challenge. So I'm sure there'll be more.
What's your website?
So my website is Kemi Blake, KemiBlake.com. To sign up for the 7-day challenge, we are on day 4, but to sign up for the challenge, it is 7daychallenge.bodychemistry.com. So yeah, and that's that.
Yeah, so follow us on social media if you're interested in consulting, coming to meet me on the river, to work with me, upgrading your lifestyle. Reach out to me, info@body-culinary.com. Follow us on social media, and we will see you soon.
Take care. Peace.